I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. That's part of Martin Luther King's very famous speech. How did he inspire so many to step forward? He invited them into a story that meant something to them, a story they saw themselves in. When you know your story and when you can share it in a compelling way for others, in a way that they can actually see themselves in it, they can relate to it, you will attract people who are looking for the real value that you deliver. You'll find the ideal client that resonates with you. In this section, I'll be sharing steps how to draw from your quantum business blueprint to tap into that story so that you can present what you do easily and you can reach out to your ideal clients in a way that feels natural and authentic for you. These days, it's all about visibility in more ways than simply your products and services being out there. It's about people knowing your story. As my dear friend and corporate story coach, Jackie Chandler says, humans live in story like fish live in water. Story is part of our DNA. And the more you allow yourself to be visible, the more stuff you can get feedback on. Now, these are times when reality shows prevail, where you can find out about anyone on YouTube and Facebook and social media marketing. All of this is just as important as what you are selling. People want to know if they can know, like, and trust you before they do business with you. And if you can't be open with your story, how can you be truly available to potential ideal clients? Here's a little story about the power of story. There's a story of some people that got trapped in a cave and that there was limited air supply and that they were all going to perish within a few hours if they breathed normally. And one person had a clock, and that one person knew how long they had left. But what that person did was tell the others in the group that there was more time left. In fact, kept on letting the group know that yes, there's still more time, we've still got more air, and actually kept the group alive way beyond the time that seemed feasible given the amount of air that was in there. And it was because they believed so strongly that somehow they didn't panic, they didn't use up extra air, they all managed to stay alive longer. There's another story of somebody who got trapped in a cold storage van and they were found the next day dead, and that person had died of hypothermia. The strange thing is that the freezer was not switched on, so actually that person could have lived, but they believed the story in their head that it's cold, I'm gonna die, and so they died. There are lots of examples of the power of story. We all know it in politics. We all know it in growing up. The stories that our parents tell us, the stories that we buy into in the media. Story is a part of life. Have you heard this one? One wave said to the other, I've heard this conspiracy about the ocean, but I don't believe it. We choose to believe what we want to believe. And we are surrounded by stories. I'm sure you've had the experience of being bored to death by a PowerPoint presentation and somebody really not knowing how to bring their presentation alive because they're just presenting facts and they're reading from slides. They're not engaging the audience. We get engaged with stories. We remember things through stories and think of the oral traditions, that it was story that was the carrier of information, of culture, of wisdom. People make decisions by emotion and then they justify it with fact. Story is what touches our emotion. There are 3 values we need to think about when we're exploring our story. There's the business value, there's the financial value, and then there's the personal value. Now, you might think as a business owner that the financial and the business value is the most important, but actually it's the personal value. Let me give you an example. There were 3 companies vying for a contract with a major company. Each had software that they were going to provide to this major company. Now, vendor A had the best fit at the best price. Vendor B had the worst fit at a cheap price. And vendor C had the worst fit and a more expensive price. Now, you would think on face value that the company would go for vendor A, the best fit for the best price. And actually, this particular vendor, in anticipation of absolutely smoking out the competition, they brought all their people over to the US. They situated them in homes, anticipating this favorable decision by the major company. But that was not to be. That company chose vendor C, the worst fit and the worst price. Why? It was because of the story that they were told, and actually why they won is that they were able to make a convincing case that the executives who were making this decision would have a lot of benefit for their personal resumes if they made this decision. So in other words, it would benefit their personal life, even if it screwed the company. This is an example of how the emotion and the personal connection can win out over the facts. People make decisions based on this ability to see themselves moving forwards, based on their personal needs, then the financial needs, and then the business needs. We are so immersed in story. When people want to change their reality, they change their story. People remember stories and jokes, but not linear information. It won't stick. Before there were written books, we retained wisdom through stories. In our culture, we live in a collective story. Now, all through this course, you've come to understand, hopefully more deeply, how important the part that the body plays in this. That when we bring something into our body, when we feel it, when we understand it as a visceral experience, it sticks more deeply. One of the things that I do when I work with people is I'll take them outside and we'll do some stretching and we'll connect with the land. And I know, and also my co-facilitator knows, when we bring people on retreats, that connection through the body with nature can really boost our ability to connect with what really matters, to make clear, smart decisions. And it also boosts our ability to communicate and articulate well. My friend, the story coach, when she takes the executives out for a walk and just connects them with the land before they would go in and do their presentations, they always rocked. They always won hands down over the other presentations. And that is because they'd taken time to pull it into their body. Sometimes to one of their favorite places, somewhere where they can really connect with themselves, somewhere that has a strong association for them. And it's amazing what emerges as they connect with this place and as they really feel more natural and easy and flowing. Bring that back into your PowerPoint presentation and you'll probably get rid of most of your slides because you'll be sharing from a place of authenticity. Let's look at these 3 circles. One is what your product is. What is it? Another is what it does. And the next circle, what does that mean? So let's take the example of a cell phone. What is it? It's a cell phone. What does it do? It helps me connect with others. I can be out and about and I can still talk to people. What does that mean? It means that I could connect with somebody in an emergency. It could save a life, or it could save a job when I'm late. We don't buy the cell phone on metal and plastic. We buy it for what it does and what it means. So what does your product or service mean to others? Now here's another diagram. Here's you, here's the competition, and here's the buyer. Now, most people sell right at the center. That's where what you offer and what your competitor offers and what the buyer wants overlap. But you want to sell over here, which is where you have what the buyer wants, but the competitor doesn't have that. That's your differentiator. And your story is a big part of that. And your story will serve that part of the Venn diagram especially. Your story can set you apart from the others.